Just when fans believed the Bridgerton world had finally settled after Benedict's long-awaited love story, the ending of season 4 quietly planted the seeds for something far more complicated. Two sisters now stand at the center of the next chapter, and neither of their futures will be simple. One of them is slowly beginning to question everything she once believed about love, marriage, and independence. The other is stepping into a love story that could completely change the direction of the entire series. If the show continues to follow the emotional path hinted at in the finale, season 5 may become one of the most dramatic and unpredictable chapters of Bridgerton so far. Because while the books give us a clear roadmap, the show has already started making changes that could reshape everything we thought we knew about Eloise and Francesca. And once those changes begin to unfold, the future of both sisters may look very different from what readers of Julia Quinn's novels were expecting. By the time season 4 comes to an end, the Bridgerton household looks very different from the one Eloise once knew. For years, Eloise stood firmly against the idea of marriage. She openly questioned society's expectations and believed that a woman's life should not revolve around finding a husband. While many of her opinions often caused tension within the family, they also made her one of the most independent and outspoken characters in the series. But slowly, something around her begins to change. It does not happen suddenly. Instead, the shift is quiet and gradual, almost as if life itself is gently pushing her in a new direction. One by one, the people closest to her begin stepping into completely new chapters of their lives. Penelope Featherington, who once shared many private conversations and secrets with Eloise, is now married to Colin Bridgerton. Their relationship has moved beyond the playful friendship that once defined their connection. They are now building a family together and creating a life that Eloise can only observe from the outside. At the same time, Benedict has finally found happiness with Sophie. After years of searching for purpose and love, he now seems more settled than ever before. Even Hyacinth, the youngest Bridgerton sibling, is growing up quickly, slowly stepping closer to the world of society that Eloise has always questioned. For the first time, Eloise finds herself standing still while everyone else moves forward. This change begins to create a quiet loneliness that she has never experienced before. It is not that she suddenly wants the same life as her siblings. Instead, she begins to wonder whether she has misunderstood something about love itself. In the earlier seasons, Eloise believed that marriage often meant losing freedom. Many women in society were expected to give up their independence and focus entirely on family life. Watching this pattern repeat again and again only strengthened Eloise's determination to avoid that path. But now, as she watches her siblings build meaningful relationships, she starts noticing something different. Their lives do not seem smaller after marriage. In fact, in many ways, their lives seem fuller. Penelope still writes, Benedict still follows his passions, and Colin appears happier than ever. Slowly, these observations begin planting small questions in Eloise's mind. Could love exist without taking away her independence? This internal conflict is exactly where her story begins to move closer to the events of Julia Quinn's novel To Sir Phillip with Love. In the books, the turning point comes after the death of Marina Thompson. Marina, who had once been connected to the Bridgerton world through a complicated past, eventually marries Sir Phillip Crane. Their marriage, however, is far from happy. Marina struggles deeply with her own emotional battles, and her story eventually ends in tragedy. When Marina dies, Sir Phillip is left alone to care for his two children. This moment becomes the unexpected beginning of Eloise's love story. Instead of meeting in person, Eloise and Sir Phillip first connect through letters. What starts as a simple exchange of polite condolences slowly grows into something much deeper. Through writing, they begin sharing their thoughts, fears, and personal experiences in a way that feels surprisingly honest. For Eloise, who has always valued conversation and intellectual connection, these letters become incredibly meaningful. Unlike the shallow conversations she often experiences in society, her letters with Philip allow her to explore deeper ideas about life, family, and responsibility. She begins to see a side of marriage that she had never considered before. Sir Philip is not the typical gentleman of the ton. He is not obsessed with reputation or social appearances. Instead, he lives a quieter life focused on science, nature, and raising his children. While Eloise's story slowly moves toward curiosity and emotional discovery, Francesca's journey begins in a much darker place. The final moments of season 4 quietly set up one of the most heartbreaking turning points in the entire Bridgerton story. What initially looked like a peaceful beginning to Francesca's married life quickly transforms into a devastating loss that changes everything. John Stirling, the gentle and kind Earl of Kilmartin, had only just begun building a life with Francesca. Their marriage was calm, respectful, and deeply affectionate in its own quiet way. Unlike the dramatic love stories seen in previous seasons, Francesca and John shared something softer and more peaceful. Their relationship was not filled with grand gestures or loud declarations. Instead, it was built on mutual understanding and quiet companionship, and that is exactly why his sudden death feels so shocking. One moment he is there, kind and supportive as always, and the next he is gone. For Francesca, the loss is not just emotional. It leaves her standing alone in a future that she had only just begun imagining. Everything she believed her life would become suddenly disappears. The grief that follows is overwhelming. But what makes this moment even more painful is the brief hope that appears right after his death. Francesca begins to believe that she might be pregnant with John's child. For a short time, this possibility gives her something to hold on to. A child would mean that a part of John could still remain with her, a living connection to the husband she loved. However, that hope does not last long. Soon it is revealed that Francesca is not pregnant after all. The dream of keeping John's memory alive through their child disappears just as quickly as it appeared. This realization leaves Francesca facing an even deeper emptiness. At this point in the story, Francesca is not simply mourning her husband, she is also mourning the future she thought she would have. But while Francesca is struggling with grief, another important figure quietly enters the center of her life: Michaela. The introduction of Michaela Stirling is one of the most surprising changes the show has made compared to Julia Quinn's original books. In the novels, the character is Michael Stirling, John's cousin and closest friend. He eventually inherits the title of Earl of Kilmartin after John's death, but in the television adaptation, the character has been reimagined as Michaela. At first, the moment between Francesca and Michaela may appear small, almost easy to overlook, but when examined closely, the scene carries a deeper emotional weight. During their conversation, Francesca asks Michaela to remain in London until a new heir for the title is officially confirmed. On the surface, it sounds like a simple and practical request. Francesca wants to ensure that the estate and responsibilities connected to the title are properly managed, yet the tone of the scene suggests something more personal. Francesca has already lost one person she deeply cared about. The idea of losing another connection to John's world may feel unbearable. Michaela is not just a relative of John, she represents the last living bridge between Francesca and the life she shared with her husband. When Michaela asks if Francesca truly wants her to stay, the moment becomes even more emotional. Francesca briefly holds her hand while asking her to remain in London. It is a very small gesture, but the expression on Michaela's face changes almost instantly. For a moment, there is a quiet tension between them, something unspoken but clearly present. It hints that Michaela may already be feeling something deeper than simple loyalty or friendship. This subtle moment becomes even more mysterious later that night. During the ball, Francesca discovers that Michaela has already packed her belongings and left London. The decision seems sudden and unexpected. After agreeing to stay, why would Michaela leave so quickly? If the show continues to follow the emotional path suggested in the books, the answer may lie in feelings that Michaela herself is trying to avoid. In Julia Quinn's original story, Michael Stirling falls in love with Francesca the very first time he sees her. The moment happens during the celebration of her engagement to John. From that point forward, Michael secretly carries those feelings for years, even while knowing that Francesca is married to his cousin. The guilt of loving her while John is still alive becomes almost unbearable. So when John dies and Michael becomes the new Earl of Kilmartin, the emotional conflict grows even stronger. Francesca is now a widow, but Michael cannot bring himself to act on the feelings he has hidden for so long. Instead, he does something unexpected. He leaves. In the book, Michael travels to India and stays away for 4 entire years. His absence is not just about distance. It is an attempt to escape the guilt. While Eloise's story slowly moves toward curiosity and emotional discovery, Francesca's journey begins in a much darker place. The final moments of season 4 quietly set up one of the most heartbreaking turning points in the entire Bridgerton story. What initially looked like a peaceful beginning to Francesca's married life quickly transforms into a devastating loss that changes everything. John Stirling, the gentle and kind Earl of